So we asked the question, how will this big election affect Brazil? I spoke with Albert Fishlow, professor of economics at the University of California, Berkeley and Columbia, about the economic challenges ahead.
Well, for example, the whole question of infrastructure has been very much neglected. Roads are bad, railroads have not been constructed, port facilities have been neglected, there's very little storage room, a whole range of these problems has been neglected over the years. Brazil had a high rate of growth until 2011, but that came about because of the commodity boom. This was a great blessing to a country that was able to produce lots of soybeans and all kinds of iron ore and other kinds of products that were used by the developed economies on the one side, but also by China on the other.
A lot of critics are blaming her administration, and a lot of these issues, yes, did happen during that time span. But I wonder if you feel like it's fair that her administration is responsible for this.
Well, it's, as in many cases, it's very difficult to put the blame. The world has changed. The Brazilian economy simply didn't adjust. And since she was in charge, she's in part to blame. Clearly, what she saw to be the way to go was a larger state, more central control, more emphasis on an industrial policy to deal with the decline in manufacturing, which had occurred in Brazil. That didn't work.
A lot of comparisons are being made to the current incumbent versus the candidate Silva, and I'm wondering, what do you see as the biggest difference between the two?
Well, the biggest difference between Marina Silva and Dilma Rousseff is that although both were members of the PT, Marina decided to leave in part for the reason that she was concerned about the environment and she felt that the administration there wasn't paying enough attention to it. And she has adopted a strong notion of economic and political reform.
You mentioned earlier that the administration failed to sort of adjust their economy at a time when the rest of the world was perhaps slowing down with respect to commodities. I mean, we're basically saying they should have diversified their economy. Is there any particular industry they should have focused on that they did not go into?
Well, it's not a question of a specific industry. In fact, one of the problems in Brazil is the automobile industry. They've given it so much emphasis and so much concern that the whole economy depends upon it, the steel industry and other parts of the economy that provide inputs. What they've got to do is to diversify the industrial sector and rely on the external economy. Brazil has one of the lowest export rates at the moment of any economy in the world.
If President Rousseff does not win re-election, do you think some will say that perhaps some of the issues surrounding the World Cup, the money, the investment, some would argue went to the wrong places? Do you think that will end up being sort of the breaking point?
Well, in some ways, Brazil also needs, apart from the economics, a political change. One of the difficulties they've had, which is remarkable, is they've had 22 political parties in Congress, and after the election, you're going to have something like 26 parties trying to put together coalitions in order to make decisions, and in order to push a program is not an easy thing. And unless they begin to deal with that problem, as well as the economic problem, they're not going to have a basis for longer-term growth.
All right. Thanks again, Professor Fishlow, Professor of Economics at Berkeley and Columbia.